Well, hello, slingers. Welcome to another Wordslinger podcast. I'm glad you tuned in. We got a lot to chat about, so I'll see you on the other side.
It's the Wordslinger podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tumlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Well, I am Kevin Tumlinson, the Wordslinger, and thanks for tuning in to another Wordslinger podcast. If you are watching on YouTube, you are seeing things that are a little different than my usual backdrop and setting. In general, it looks the same. I'm tempted to just ask you to point out what's different, but I won't keep the listeners in suspense. But right now, so what I ended up doing, let me back up. So right now we are in the process of downsizing and getting rid of some things, and making a few hard decisions here and there. And one of those has been, I made the decision that the hand-built desk that I made out of reclaimed wood and plumbing fixtures and things like that, I'm going to just let that go. We actually have, my wife at one point had bought one of those from IKEA. She bought the mechanism to make a sit-down, stand-up desk, a little motorized desk that goes up and down. And she's had a couple different tops for it. I decided to swap out my hand-built desk for this one. For a few reasons. I'm trying to reduce the number of things that go into storage, and this desk can actually be broken down into a very compact pile, a heavy pile, but a very compact pile that could fit very easily in a storage unit, and then it doesn't take up a ton of space in like an apartment or a house or whatever. So when we get off the road, I won't have to worry too much about what size space we're in. But I discovered something. So, I've never had one of these before. I mean, I've been around them. I know how they work and everything, but I've never personally used one before. But what I've discovered is it's kind of a new way for me to organize my setup here. So I've actually got the mount for my camera used to be on a light stand that actually runs behind a monitor here. And then the microphone used to be on a swing arm. Right now, the microphone's very front and center, so I may have to adjust some things. You're getting more of a view of the microphone than me at this point. I may even be softly out of focus, for all I can tell. But I discovered that if with the camera on just a tripod, I can raise and lower the desk to get it at the right height, which is kind of nice. And same with the microphone. It actually gives me an opportunity to have the microphone kind of closer to me, a little more front and center. In fact, I'm just going to move it. You're probably hearing all kinds of noise right now, so sorry about that. That's better. That seems better. That's a little better. It's a work in progress. Here's what's interesting about this, though. This whole thing is, in doing this, it's allowed me to sort of shift my perspective. So, okay, just this morning, because this desk can raise and lower, I keep journals, little Moleskine journals. If you're watching on YouTube, I've got one in my hands, a little leather sleeve. And, every morning I write 3 pieces of wisdom and 3 things I'm grateful for, and then just sort of stream of consciousness, fill out the rest of the page. And I do that every day. I've been doing it for several years, numerous years, maybe a decade, I think, maybe more. But what's handy, so on the old desk, I would have to sort of slouch over and write, and it was never a problem. But with this one, I can actually raise it up, and I can be a little closer. It's just sort of a more comfortable experience. And then I can lower the desk to where it's at a comfortable keyboard height. Whereas my old desk, because it was just, one height, like a bar height, I had to, any task I performed had to be at that height. And now I can adjust according to the task. So, isn't that interesting? But the point is, doing this has changed my perspective. It's made me start thinking about, like, what else can I do? And that's how I came up with the idea of, like, I could, shorten the mount on my my camera mount, and I could, move the mic closer. And, there's all these things that I can do now that I couldn't have done before. So I don't really necessarily need a swing arm for the mic if I don't want one. I may replace that when we're stationary again. And the other thing I've been doing, by the way, is culling things down and kind of separating things out so that I can just have kits that I carry with me. I've got cases and things that I'm going to put, like, I've got a Mac Mini and the microphone and things like that I use for podcasting. And I'll be able to just carry that stuff with me. Now, while in the van, I'm going to have to break that out every time I record. It can get a little tedious, but it's such a small space, you can't really just leave anything, set up all the time. You can, but then it starts to get in the way. It's just better to do it this way. But that's why it's important to streamline things as much as possible. So this all comes back around to this idea of perspective, right? Little changes in your routine and your habits and your environment can actually inspire a whole new perspective, and that's invaluable. If you are able to kind of change the way you see the world, it changes the way you interact with the world, and it changes the options and opportunities you have. That's what I'm saying. That's sort of what I'm getting to right now. We've been going through a lot of this as we downsize, getting ready to get on the road, and so we've also changed our approach to getting on the road. Originally, we were going to do what we did before. We were going to get out full time, stay in campsites, just really utilize the van. And now we are still going to utilize the van, and occasionally we'll stay over in places. Maybe we're going to do harvest hosts. You pay like $100 a year, and you can stay in like vineyards and orchards and golf courses and things for a night with no fee. So we're going to do things like that, mostly for the experience, but also as a sort of layover between destinations. But we've discovered that we've got some opportunities to stay with clients and friends and family and things like that all across the country. So we're going to stay a few months in Pennsylvania, as Kara's got a design client there, and we're going to we get to stay in their guest house for a few months. That's going to save us money, but it also helps Kara be on site to help out with things that are happening in the remodel. So it's beneficial to everybody. So all those opportunities came, and because of that, our shift in perspective has been like, we don't have to stay in the van full time, and that's informed a few decisions. Originally, I had bought a Starlink Mini that was going to allow us to be online wherever we parked. But it turns out we don't really need that, because we're always going to be staying someplace that has Wi-Fi. So, I'm returning that, getting that money back. Anyway, that's the stuff that's happening right now, and it's interesting because there is some discomfort in this whole downsizing thing. But if you can overcome that, that's where all the opportunity lives. So right now, I'm forcing myself is a harsh way to put that. I've been working on, like, how do I make myself get rid of things that I don't necessarily need anymore, and that, were part of an old life that I'm trying to kind of move past. I'm a firm believer in, you have to make room for the life you want. If you are always holding on to, everything from your past, that's a weight you carry around with you, but it's also a barrier to new things. So if my wardrobe's crammed full of old shirts and things that are kind of worn out and frayed collars and missing buttons or whatever, but I refuse to let go of it, I don't have room for new shirts. I might cram some in there, but pretty soon they're going to look as tattered as the old stuff. So it's better to to go through the mild pain of letting things go, even if you have some emotional attachment to it, and moving on to newer and better. And not necessarily for the sake of just always having newer or better, but Kara and I have really stepped into this idea of let's replace the things we have a bit at a time with higher quality versions, with things that serve us better, that give us a better experience, that sort of thing. So that's what we're working on right now. That said, that desk, I've probably written 100 novels and short stories and Substack posts, and recorded thousands of videos and podcasts and things from that desk. I have a question. For you. I need your opinion. Should I try to auction that off to like readers or other authors or something? What do you think of that idea? Is that narcissistic to to think anyone even care about that? And maybe a certain percentage of that, I think I would just earmark to go to some form of charity or something. But we actually we could use the cash as well. But I'm just curious. Well, tell me what you think and what you think I should do there. Because otherwise, I'm just going to put it up for sale, probably on Facebook Marketplace, and see what I can get for it. And the world at large isn't going to care about it. It doesn't have value. So I may not get much at all. But I was thinking, it's a special thing. It was hand built and tailored specifically to what I wanted and needed at the time. And I've used it faithfully now since, I believe I got that in I think I put it all together in like 2017. I'm thinking that's about right. So quite a while, not quite 10 years, but quite a few books written and quite a few podcasts recorded. So anyway, you tell me, what should I do there? Would anyone even care? And I guess I could always put it up for auction, and if nobody buys it, I quietly withdraw that and go sell it somewhere or whatever. But selling that desk, so I have an emotional attachment to that thing. And it took some effort this morning. I woke up thinking about it, and I had that sense of dread. And then I sort of worked through it and realized, okay, I've used it. I've gotten a lot of use out of it. It has been a remarkable part of my life. But, now it's time for someone else to get that same joy out of it, or that same utility out of it, so it can continue to live on in its purpose, the way I'm trying to live on in mine. So that's one way of thinking of things. And I've found that helps me a great deal, because I'm very nostalgic. I hold on to things. I get emotionally attached to things. I shouldn't. It's an ego thing. But it's harder to just, convince yourself that, I need to force through this. It's actually a little easier to sort of convince yourself or tell yourself the story that allows you to move on from it. If you've got a good story, it's a lot easier to make decisions, even hard decisions. So that's what's happening with a lot of our stuff. I've had people over the past couple of weeks come by and buy, they've bought things from me that I put on Marketplace. Things that I didn't think we'd ever get rid of. And as soon as it was sold and out of the house, it was more like a relief than anything. So that it's a little hard. It's all hard work, but it is very freeing. Now, Karen and I are going to do a garage sale on the 18th. If you happen to be in the Austin area, we're going to be publicizing it on the internet, on Facebook and other places, putting up some signs and stuff. And this is probably going to be garage sale 1 of X, because we just got a lot of stuff. It's taking a lot of time. Right now we're concentrating on going through the garage. We're separating out tools and other things. We've got our shelving units and stuff, so we're going to set everything up in the garage so people can come in, be in the shade. I'm going to be able to accept Venmo. So if you want to bundle things, pay by Venmo, you're welcome to do that. Any furniture and other items that we have for sale, we're going to try to print out photos and things and have those in the garage so that, if people are interested in buying that stuff, they can buy that too. We got a lot of furniture. Like, we got some really, some good stuff from like IKEA and stuff that we've used. We've got some actual living room furniture and things like that. We sold our bedroom suite. I thought that was going to hurt a lot more than it did. And at first it did. But because we've had that since 2010, so 15 years, going on 16 years of having that set, real wood headboard and footboard with storage, and these nightstands with like underlighting and power strips in the top drawer, little power bays for charging your devices and everything. Probably a $3,500 suite, and I think I sold it for like $400. So I thought that was going to hurt a lot more than it did, but it actually freed us up and opened us up to try something that I don't think we would have tried before, which is Kara had this day bed that she'd bought with a pull-out mattress for guests. We took the two mattresses and these two bed frames, and I like zip tied the frames together, and we put the two mattresses on that, and then we put like a mattress topper, like a foam mattress topper on top of that. You can't feel a seam. There's nothing to indicate that that's two mattresses. It just made one king-sized bed, and then we repurposed the backing of the day bed as a headboard. It's like one of those wrought iron looking, old-timey looking headboards, and it looks great. And it sleeps very comfortably, probably better than the other bed that we had. And we never would have tried that had we not been willing to go through the slight discomfort of letting go of something we've held on to for all these years. That thing has cost us a fortune over the years, because it's probably spent more of its life in storage than it has in use, because we, 2 or 3 years after we got it, we got on the road full time for like 3 years in the RV. For a time we were in an apartment that was too small for it, and so we loaned it to my mom for a couple of years, and then we got into the van, and it stayed in storage, and then once we were out of the van, we brought it here, so it's been in 2 different houses and like 3 or 4 different apartments, but it's spent most of its time in one form of storage or another. So. So it's cost us a fortune, because you pay for something that you're not using. Literally, that's what storage is. It's unavoidable, man. I wish we're just never going to be able to. There's certain things we're never going to be able to make ourselves get rid of. A lot of that is like heirlooms. We have like Kara's grandmother had some furniture that Kara's inherited. This table behind me here in the video shot, we call that the Pix table. Her grandpa Pix built that by hand. It's a drafting table. That guy invented the respirator. So I think I talked about this last episode. He invented the respirator, and he's got there's an exhibit, it was, I think they've taken it down, but there was an exhibit about him in the museum there. What's the big museum? It'll come to me. I don't know why. But anyway, stuff like that we're not going to get rid of that. That has important value to the family. Her grandmother's like dishes and things like that. As much as we don't use any of that, so I'm okay with getting rid of it. But it's a family heirloom. Kara loves it. I'm not going to tell her to get rid of something she loves. So there's still going to be things. These IKEA cabinets that are in this office, I'd be absolutely fine with selling, but Carol wants to keep them because they look great, and I understand. There's little items here and there that I think we should sell that we're going to keep because Kara feels strongly that we should, and we will. And then there's things that I want to keep. Kara found this compression bag with a couple of blankets in it. She's like, we should just sell those blankets. I'm like, I'm not going to sell those blankets because of where I got them, because of how they came to me. Because one of them came from my adopted father from Mexico. He's not from Mexico. The blanket's from Mexico. And it's a big, thick wool blanket. And I've just had it since I was a kid, and I'm just not going to let go of it. And even though I don't use it, if it ever got seriously cold, it'd be a very warm blanket. But, I'm not ready to hand that over. And same with this, there's an Afghan thing that my great-grandmother gave me that I'm not ready to hand over, and that's just what it is. So, she felt strongly we should try to sell them or donate them or whatever, and I just wasn't comfortable with it. So there's going to be things like that, and maybe I'll revisit that. The strategy that we're using, by the way, is like we have multiple piles. So there is the sell pile, there is the donate pile, there is the discard pile, and then there is the keep pile. Well, the first three are both single touch. You touch it once and it goes in the pile. So you don't ever go back and look and say, oh, I want to go ahead and keep that after all. But the keep pile gets revisited multiple times. And it's amazing how often I will actually move something from the keep pile to one of the other piles. I wouldn't have thought that about me, but it happens. And I see that as growth. I see that as progress. So that's what's happening right now. I talked about this last week, so some of this is redundant, so I'm sorry about that. But I think there's a lot of life lessons to kind of pick up on here. You don't need as much as you think you need. A lot of what you're holding on to because your ego feels like you're dying when you let go of it. It's attached it somehow to your identity. And so you feel like you're going away when it goes away, but it's just not true. And a shift in perspective can change everything for you. If you're willing to endure just a tiny bit of discomfort, you can make big changes in your life, big positive changes. But I think one of the keys here is to not push yourself to do it. Encourage yourself to do it. Set it up so that it's easier to do. But it's like forming a habit in a way. Like make it easy to let something go, but create friction and make it harder to keep something is a good technique to use. And that's what we're doing with the various piles and selling things right away. If you sell it, you can't keep it, right? So going ahead and pulling the trigger and putting it on Facebook, you don't have to agree to a sale. But if you do and they come pick it up, it's done. So same with a garage sale. And, my whole method with the garage sales is, I've got an asking price. I'm hoping people will, pay that or at least get close to it. There are some things I won't negotiate on, but, whatever's left over after the garage sale, it may get donated. We're going to probably do multiple garage sales, so it might be the third or fourth garage sale before it gets donated. But, you got to learn how to let the stuff go or it's just going to weigh you down forever. So if you are interested in anything, let me know. Follow me. You might want to mosey on over to Facebook and find me on Facebook Marketplace and see what I'm listing, and we can work something out. So yeah, things that I'm going to have a tough time with. There are certain books I'm never going to let go of. You can see behind me there. Those cases are all filled with like Orson Scott Card and John Grisham hardcovers. So I'm not likely to let any of those go. And I do reread things. So books are a hard one because they start to add up. They're a pain to move, but they're worth it. And I'll always try to find some way to include them in the space I'm in, because I like to just browse titles and pick something up. The last time, not the last time, but early on in this whole process when we were getting on the road, we donated all my paperbacks and stuff. I culled down things quite a bit, and there are some I regret, and I've been kind of replacing a few of those. So I'm not likely to do that again. So that's the challenges. But anyway, so I'm sure that there's going to be a lot more episodes that talk about this stuff because I'm talking about what's on my mind. Now, in terms of writing, I'm working on a book right now that is based on that flash fiction story that I wrote, the Library of Unwritten Books, which I think is has got great legs. I'm enjoying it. It's opened my mind to the idea that I think I enjoy being a speculative fiction writer. I can still write thrillers. I can still write all the things I write, but I can branch out a little. And when I say speculative fiction, it's a little bit like Kara has always said she thought my strength was that I should write more. She says literary stuff, and now I don't think she thinks of it the same way I do. So I think that's where the disconnect has been. I don't want to be a literary writer per se because it tends to be even more challenging to have commercial success as a literary fiction writer. But writing things that are kind of just, I like things that are just slightly on the other side of the line for fantastic. And I like stories that are hopeful. And there's a lot of this stuff that I just enjoy. I enjoy telling good stories that are fast-paced and hopeful, and that have a little bit of sort of otherworldliness to it. Whether that's an artifact that has some mystical power, or weird science, or lost history, or everyday magic kind of stuff, mundane magic stuff, or 15 minutes in the future, or something that could come out of the Outer Limits or Twilight Zone. I enjoy that kind of thing. So I'm branching out, and this is influencing more than just my fiction. I'm kind of looking at it as like I'm a speculative writer of nonfiction, a speculative creator of podcasts, and I'm looking for another term. The one that I'm kind of courting right now is working the word discovery in there, because I'm much more of a discovery writer than a plotter, but I also do the same thing when it comes to any media, anything I'm creating. So anyway, if you got some suggestions, let me know. So I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. We're at like 30 minutes. I hope that you are having a great week and a great weekend ahead. I'll try to keep these things from getting boring when it comes to talking about downsizing. I'm excited about it right now and all the things that I'm doing, so I'm probably going to update you pretty regularly, but I'll try to make sure that I'm giving you a little meat for the broth too. So how about you? How about you reach out and tell me what's going on in your life? Maybe there's some things that we can celebrate together. And I want to give a very big shout out to all the people who have emailed and texted and DM'd me with encouragement, saying, please don't end the show, telling me that you enjoy the format, you like the sort of folksy fireside chat stuff. I appreciate that. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. So thanks for that. I enjoy doing this too. So it's part of that discovery, speculative creator process. So anyway, take care of yourselves out there. God bless you. And I'll see you next time.